Well, this is wild. It's so cold that the touch-sensitive gloves aren't working. I don't even know. Yeah, I can't switch anything. We're gonna have to just stay on this one selfie mode on the camera. That's annoying. It is so cold right now. Look, penguins at the gift shop at the zoo. Nobody is around. It's that cold. It was 9 degrees before. Oh, there's 2 people. So it's supposed to be this historic snowstorm. Oh, there's some people around. What are you doing at the zoo? It's freezing. They're like, hey, let's go to the zoo. So, I mean, I was going to say, will this be an historic storm? I think so. Yeah, these people are going to the zoo. It's a little warmer over here. We have the sun. Oh my God, that feels so much better, actually. So, normally there's seals or something here. Sea lions, I don't know what the difference is. I don't see them. Too cold even for seals. That tells you something. Are there seals? Oh yeah, there are. Too cold even for seals.
Oh, they are. You can see them.
Mostly staying underwater though. They're smart. Poking their heads out. It's freezing. So I don't know. Hopefully I can make this walk home without my fingers burning off. Without having to get in the subway. But Zoran Mamdani apparently announced, what are these kids doing without their parents? See, it's an early age instinct to ride around like a jackass on a scooter on the sidewalk and to try to wave at the video. Historic snowstorm. I saw an interesting video. Jimmy Dore yesterday had a guy, I forget this guy's name, but he was an expert in the chemical, atmospheric injection. And he was saying that, hey, everybody who's talking about chemtrailing or, these small planes doing it, he said, that's nothing, that the military has been doing it forever. He raised some very compelling points, that they had a treaty to not use weather modification. I mean, I think people know about Operation Popeye, which was admitted to during the Vietnam War. Look at this squirrel, came right up to me. He's like, hey man, it's cold, you got some nuts? They're freaking out. But I think they used heavy weather modification in Vietnam to make it rain or deforest the place. They did a lot of crazy stuff in Vietnam with Agent Orange and all that, but I don't know, are they bringing this huge superstorm to New York City to is this the new pandemic? Just anything to piss off Trump and destroy New York? They love to destroy New York, huh? Whether it's 9/11, COVID, this superstorm. I stocked up on some stuff. Soup, ravioli, things you can boil in case the electricity goes off. That's my one concern. If the electricity goes off, it becomes a big problem because people are like, toughen up, you don't need electricity, except in New York you do. I don't get any water in my apartment without electricity. I mean, it will for a little while, but it basically, it's pumped up from the street by an electric pump into a tank on the roof, and then gravity draws it down. But the problem is there's 300 apartments in my building, and when the electricity goes off, everyone says, oh no, fills up their bathtub with water, and then there's none. And within about 24 hours, you have no drinking water or can't flush the toilet. I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, even if they do lose electricity, It should come back on. It was a big problem. When was it? 2003, when we had that incident where, the whole entire East Coast had a blackout. As I recall, that lasted for well over a week, because that was the problem. I was in the apartment, and this is where I learned about this problem. I figured, no problem, I can live without electricity. And then the water stopped, and I said, well, wait a minute, now it's a problem. Can't live without water. Because that's the thing, I have gas in the oven. So even if it's, no electricity for the heat, you can, boil a pot of water, roast a chicken, something like that. You have to have a chicken to be able to roast it. But that kind of warms up the apartment, and you can wear a jacket and stuff. I don't know, these guys are trying to rent bikes or something. What tourists would be out renting bikes right now? I don't think anybody. So this is kind of the calm before the storm. It is pretty calm. I don't really want to do too much walking around in Central Park today, although let's see if it's frozen over down by the lake there. Kind of. Yeah, it's cold. My face is hurting. Is it turning red? Or blue or whatever color? Yeah, there's sheets of ice out there. I wish I could turn the camera around. I don't know why that's happening. I mean, that's how cold this is. Maybe it's I think it's the gloves. Maybe does it rely on the heat of your finger? I don't know how these touch sensitive gloves work. But let's see if people can see the pond. See the ice? No ducks today. Do not feed the wildlife. Human food is harmful to their health. It's probably harmful to your health too. They just don't want you to know that. Don't feed the wildlife, just throw Bounty tissues in there. Yeah, so that's not completely frozen over. And by the way, this is not where you would go ice skating in Central Park. That was the Trump rink. Ooh, we already have some ice frozen over here. That's the other thing, is that in ice storms like this, New York City becomes super treacherous to be walking around. Look at this tiny little dog. He's got to be freezing cold. I was walking by a dog jacket store before. The dog jacket store is busy. That's like the dog from Big Lebowski. It's like, dude, this dog has papers, dude. Yeah, this section, it's getting pretty close to frozen over. So it was quite a road trip throughout these great United States. Look at how frozen over this is. I don't recommend attempting to walk on that, but it's getting pretty close to frozen solid over here. I think I went into some detail about this, but my Thanksgiving trip to visit my parents turned into a longer stay than I anticipated. It was a confluence of events that resulted in that. This is why I like having a car rather than flying all around everywhere. Look at how dangerous it is to be walking right here. This is like uneven ice. But what happened was George's brother, and people say, oh, don't give George oxygen. Believe me, I have much better things to think about and talk about than George and his mentally ill brother. But it's important for people to understand what's going on, not because of anything that they're doing to me, but because of the nature of this type of social engineering activity in general. The question, it's not about me, no. It's about why are they doing this to any particular person. They've selected me, but I think it's important for us to study and understand. Rescue ladder. But that would just fall in too. that ice rescue ladder. I mean, I guess the idea is it distributes your weight over the ice, but I wouldn't, don't go in there at all. You dropped your tennis ball. I mean, the question is, why are they doing this, right? Some idiot posted on X this morning like, oh, I don't usually post here, but I have to say this is terrible. What happened to Blake Bednars? Let's deplatform Jason. It's like, hey, well, first of all, what do you think? You're some kind of good person suggesting that people do that? I didn't deplatform Blake Bednars or John Cullen. I'm just exposing facts about those guys. They're free to defend themselves, provide countermanding facts if that's what they want to do. But I don't control X. I don't control YouTube. I didn't deplatform them. I presented Blake's rap sheet, criminal record. That's records from Lubbock, Texas. The city or county, whatever that is. If he wants to counteract that argument, he's welcome to do it. He didn't do that. He chose to delete his Twitter, his X, and his YouTube and go away. What kind of defense is that? I didn't force him to do that. And by the way, he's been saying from the beginning that he runs an insurance company. That's how he earns his money. Why would this malicious person encourage people to deplatform me because I shared public evidence of serial criminal activity from a repeat offending fraudster who's, I think, defrauding people right now, making up evidence in the Charlie Kirk investigation, making up lies about me. And again, he's another guy. I didn't target Blake. I had no idea who he was until he started agitating me, attacking my journalism, attacking me personally with lies. So it's the same thing George and his brother do. I didn't know who those guys were. George put out this whole video. I was talking about it in Washington, D.C. He hasn't taken it down. He's a coward. Uses his fake name. Lives like a vagabond. I don't know what his address is. My address is published all over the place. People are like, oh, you're doxing. I'm not doxing anybody. Even that diligent denizen, another fake loser. He said, oh, you're doxing Blake. I didn't dox Blake. I revealed to everyone that he's a serial fraudster, serial criminal, arrested for domestic violence, felony fraud, burglary, convicted on some of those accounts. The thing that we really need to know about Blake is, what is the nature of the plea agreement that you arrived at? And what's the duration of it? Because everyone's like, this happened 10 years ago. Right, but some of that stuff could have put him in prison for 10 years. There were lots and lots of plea bargain hearings, and maybe they might say, well, instead of going to prison for 10 years, you're going to work for us for 20 years. Why aren't people questioning that? Hey, Blake, come on back onto social media and explain to everyone what the nature of your plea bargain is or was and what agency it was with. Tell us about that. Is your interaction with other journalists and social media commentators, is it part of your plea bargain? Are you sharing facts and evidence about Charlie Kirk, or are you trying to mold and manipulate the narrative? Why are all these people coming out saying bad things about me? Lying about what I did. I didn't dox Blake. I told everybody, here's his criminal history. And some people say, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, all right. Domestic violence doesn't matter. Plea bargains don't matter. Multiple frauds don't matter. I'm not saying just because someone has ever gotten jammed up with the law ever that means they can never be trusted. People make mistakes. I recognize that. You can even repent and get over it. But what we're talking about here doesn't appear to be somebody who's done that. It appears to be somebody who is lying and hiding his background. You know, if he had put that in his past, he should be able to come out and talk about that. Why does he need all these fake named accounts to speak for him? It doesn't make sense to me. But right now, the primary concern is this extreme weather event that's about to happen. Here's a BMW M4. Living large, it says. Yeah, I guess so. Living cold. So we can kind of check out New York City. I guess a lot of people missed the walk and talk. Too bad I can't manipulate the camera in the normal way. It is a good ghost town video because we're back to our kind of mostly empty streets. I'm disappointed that I can't, flip the camera back and forth, because that's going to be a problem. I wanted to, if it snows, which is expected, come out and do another video, but if you, normally these touch-sensitive gloves work well. I mean, it's so cold, the electronics are failing, The wires were stiff. The chemical reaction in a battery doesn't really work properly in weather like this. Oh, also, this is my first walk and talk under disgraceful Mayor Zoran Mamdani. He's already said, and this is stupid, he said, no matter what, no snow day on Monday. What are you talking about? How can you say that? What if there's 25 inches of snow and not a single vehicle can move? What if all electricity is out? Why would you send people to school? I don't know why he said that. It's stupid. Why not just say, hey, we're going to monitor the storm and make a decision that's in everybody's best interest to keep everybody safe and do our best to keep schools open. But if the weather doesn't allow, I don't know why he wouldn't say that. I mean, I do. It's because he's incompetent. He's confident and incompetent. Charles has discussed that in the past. Dangerous combination. There are certain people who lack confidence. Maybe they know what they're doing, but they are reluctant to make a decision. And then there's other people who have no idea what they're doing and realize that they don't know what they're doing, so they lack confidence. Those people are all right. They might be reluctant to act. But somebody who is confident and incompetent, like Zoran Mamdani, boldly makes incompetent statements like, no matter what. What if it's the worst snowstorm in the history of New York City? 25 inches of snow, 9 degrees for the next 3 days, so it's socked in solid sheets of ice. Then what? The worst will be if there's no electricity. That's my concern. Of course, everybody did the run on the supermarkets. Ooh, nice heater lamps under here. What is this? Central Park? Park Central Hotel. Oh yeah, that's nice. So let's see, wait, maybe if I stand under the heat long enough, it'll heat up my fingers and make the... Not working. I don't know. I don't understand how these touch-sensitive gloves work, but who knew the cold stops them from working? Doesn't stop scammers and fraudsters, you see. Nobody's interested in knowing where all that money goes. It's organized crime for sure. But lots of interesting stuff. The other day when I was in DC, you had Nick Shirley testifying. I heard some videos from him saying that someone seems to be screaming, going crazy. No Democrats were asking him any questions. So that figures they all know about the fraud. We also had Ivan Raiklin confronting Michael Fanone. Now, I discussed this a little bit with Sal. He was being quite diplomatic. You know, Sal is friends with certain people who perhaps I don't like. He told me he has a treaty now with Orrin Levi, a truce. Not a treaty, he's not in there, the UN signing peace agreements with Orrin Levi, but they came to some truce. I wouldn't do that. I don't trust that guy at all. But he also had something to say. That dude's crazy and screaming. Didn't seem to want to talk too much about Ivan Raiklin. That's fine. I don't know who Sal might be friends with, who's friends with Ivan Raiklin. Everybody knows I don't like or trust Ivan Raiklin at all. There was that encounter, I played it on the show yesterday with Sal, where that guy was eating like a pile of gravy. Ran into Ivan Raiklin at the Trump rally in Butler, PA, and we had some words. It was good to observe. If you didn't see that video with Sal yesterday, go take a look at it. But I compared the way that Ivan was behaving toward me and how he was behaving with Michael Fanone. You know, it could be a negotiating technique he's learned as being a lawyer. Could be something he's learned from being in the Army. Could just be his own approach. But he tries to control a conversation. It was interesting how it didn't work on me. And he ultimately sank himself by saying stupid things. Never answered why. He deliberately tried to get me in trouble by mentioning Nina Jankowicz's name. The big deal about it is, when he did that, the mentioning of Nina Jankowicz's name, I thought he was a friend of mine. I thought he was an ally. I enjoyed his sense of humor. I had invited him on my show a bunch of times. I had been on his show a bunch of times. That's what made it not make sense. You see, you know, Jack Posobiec, that also didn't make too much sense, but Jack Posobiec and I weren't friendly. I've been out to dinner with Ivan Raiklin. Like I said, I tried to hire him as my attorney, had a number of phone calls with him and other attorneys, and I've ridden in Ivan Raiklin's car, had him on my show, he'd been on his show. So for him to just come out of nowhere, and also it wasn't like I encountered him in the street. I mean, there's no doubt I was being somewhat adversarial toward Jack when he behaved in the objectionable way that he did towards me. I don't think I deserved that. I don't think that really gave him an excuse to act that way. But at least you can understand how that situation developed. What I'm trying to say is that with Ivan Raiklin, it was even more confusing and perplexing because he was on my show as a guest. He and I were in the John Durham hearing there, and it ended. And I said, "Do you want to do a live stream?" He said, "Sure." And we were having a friendly interview. And then he came out and said, "Oh, Nina Jankowicz." And also, she wasn't even relevant to the conversation. So he deliberately injected her name, having read the court order against me, the court order that I argue is unconstitutional, overly broad, beyond the judges, you know, ultra vires, I believe is what you call it. Beyond the judge's authority to issue. The problem is, judges can do things like that. And see, like right now, I was ordered as a consequence of that finding by that judge, I was ordered to delete from the internet that John Durham. You can't see that anymore. Do you believe that? I think that's a violation of all of our First Amendment rights. The judge doesn't have the right to tell me I'm not allowed to talk about Nina Jankowicz. You can say I'm not allowed to go near her. That's part of her restraining order. I think that was wrongfully a ban on commentary and speech, particularly about a public figure. You know, she's appearing before Congress and things like that, and you're saying I'm not allowed to speak about her? Obviously, you're not allowed to threaten people or incite violence against people, but to say, hey, she was in front of Congress today, Nina Jankowicz, they're saying, boom, that's a violation. Anyway, the point is there's a court order now, and, you know, irrespective of the constitutionality of it, if I were to publish that video, the judge could find me in contempt, throw me in jail, and again, it creates all these things that you would have to unwind. So Ivan was trying to do that, trying to create legal jeopardy for me. And why would he do that? You know, this is not a small thing. He's an extremely tricky guy. He was trying to get me jammed up in a way that, you know, the worst possible outcome would be me going to jail. And he just said, no, I wasn't. Well, he won't explain why he did that. He hasn't apologized for it. He didn't say, oh, I thought it was a funny joke. I mean, you know, sometimes you have friends who are morons who do things that they think are funny and aren't. That's not the case here. You know, he's an attorney. So that was a sophisticated attack from him. And the reason I'm talking about it so much is that I just don't believe anything he says or does. And I don't believe what he was doing with Fanone was innocent. This guy doesn't want to be seen on camera, obviously. I don't think what he was doing with Fanone was innocent or even should necessarily be taken at face value. How do we know that just like January 6th was a setup, how do we know that that fight with Fanone in Congress there wasn't a staged thing? By the way, I guarantee if you or I went into Congress and started shouting the F word and puffing up your chest and looking like you were about to start a fight, they would drag you out of there immediately. They wouldn't be like, sir, excuse me. They would drag you out of that room, put you in handcuffs, and take you down the street to the U.S. Capitol Police Building, give you all kinds of tickets. You'd appear in court. What happened to Owen Schroyer? Didn't he get taken out of one of those things? My point is, and now Ivan is making hay out of that, like he's some kind of hero, and so is Fanone. You know, they made a little news. But Ivan is a social engineer and an untrustworthy scumbag, in my opinion. So I question that whole incident there. I don't know. And also, Fanone made some very specific accusations. He said that Ivan had threatened his kids. I wonder. Ivan does say a lot of stupid things, but he's a lawyer. He knows when he's gonna, you know, cross a line, I would think. Do we have any new screens here in Times Square? Got a lot of ads. Here's King Kong. It's a good King Kong suit. What is Netflix advertising here? Yeah, it's a pretty empty day in Times Square, mostly due to the cold, I would think. I mean, if you're on vacation in New York, you're going to come out. What the hell is going on here? Oh, it's a movie shoot. It's the Solar Beam 3000. Wonder what they're shooting. So, yeah, got Ivan yelling at Fanone. Blake Bednars deleting all his social media stuff. That's funny. I saw they were having a Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa look-alike contest. I thought that was weird. He's got some tweets up there. So yeah, we've got mean people inciting antagonism of me, telling people to deplatform me. That seems to be such a common theme, you know? God, this guy's still at it with the yelling. Where are the cops? None around. You know, they have so many cops around when they just are standing around on the cell phone, and none now when there's lunatics around. Look at this flagship retail space release right here in Times Square. I saw another place where they were saying, oh, you know, any use is allowed and we'll consider splitting it up. I was like, wow, that doesn't seem good. It seems like New York is desperate to rent space. I guess we knew that. This guy's here to take care of public safety. I doubt he's going to be able to do much of anything. He certainly hasn't said anything to this crazy guy. Can people hear that guy? He's going crazy. So I think everybody's just getting ready for the big storm. This guy needs money for a penis reduction, according to the sign. I don't recommend doing that. I can still hear this guy yelling. Can people hear him? New York is filled with lunatics. I don't know. Does anything feel different about it now that we have Zoran Mamdani as mayor? Maybe not. They say cops are resigning. He's defunding the police. He had some plan to cut overtime. The funny thing is, that's actually a good plan. That's calling for a more efficient use of the police. And by the way, we've heard about 1 million scandals of the police stealing overtime, wrongfully getting paid overtime. So reducing that would be smart. And by the way, not allowing 1 million idiots to protest like outside of Tesla and that kind of thing, where you have to pay the cops overtime. You might just say, no, you can't do that. You can have a protest in the park and, you know, plan it in such a way that don't have crackhead Barney there. How much money is wasted on the NYPD, you know, community affairs or whatever that is? Basically, you know, paying crackhead Barney and Orrin Levi and other people to create fights. And remember that guy, what was his name? Victor Parra, who was arrested as part of a Venezuelan moped gang mugging people, and then they dressed him up as a Hamas supporter. Why did we need the cops there? How much overtime was paid there? So it's like everything is a scam. Everybody is stealing our money. Taxes keep going up. Did people see gold was up to like $4,900 an ounce, and silver was up to $100 an ounce. I'm pretty sure those are both kind of like all-time highs. I'm definitely not an economist, but I think that just means that the value of the dollar is going down. I see that at the supermarket. Everything there is more expensive. But crowdsource the truth isn't. It's still just $5 a month. Sponsor the show, please, by going to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. Or you can also subscribe to me on X at JG_CSTT. You get sponsor exclusive content there. Yesterday's show with Sal was supposed to be our first sponsor exclusive with Sal, but we're still getting his Substack set up, so that didn't quite go the way we originally planned. Next week we'll be back with a sponsor exclusive. Yeah, it's amazing how persistent they've been, and by they, I mean George and his brother and various people who seem to be connected to them, including Blake Bednars, who are so focused on getting Jason deplatformed. Again, I didn't say Blake get off the internet. He's free. He could have said, yeah, I did those crimes 10 years ago, and have his explanation for how he, whatever, repented or went to jail or didn't, or found Jesus or whatever it is that he did that would satisfy people. He didn't answer any of it. He just disappeared. Strange, right? I think I'm going to keep talking about it and go further into it. I need to find out if we can do it's Saturday obviously, but try to do a freedom of information request, find out if we can learn the contents of his plea agreement, find out why Blake disappeared from the internet. Seems like, kind of like exposed him. By the way, I don't mean to be negative. There is a larger number of people who've contacted me thanking me for exposing Blake. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who realize that that happened. Oh, wasn't that the cupcake place? I'm sure there's plenty of people who realize that he was exposed and just don't have a need to comment at all. I just find it interesting that these anonymous accounts come out and say like, oh, I'm so moved to comment, deplatform Jason, because Blake is such a nice guy. I've never lied about Blake. You might not like the things that I've said about him, but they're true. I didn't tell him to burglarize somebody's house. He did that on his own accord. I'm just telling you that it happened. And again, I certainly don't condone burglary, but I'm not saying don't listen to him because he's a serial burglar. You can make up your own mind about that. I'm just asking what's the story with the plea deal, because I'm very suspicious of people who have criminal backgrounds that lead them to plea deals who then show up in social media. It fits a pattern of people who hang out with and adjacent to George Webb and his maniac brother, who are dedicated to deplatforming me and making it impossible for me to earn a living sharing factual information with you, the public. Like I said, George is sharing lies about me. When I challenge him to provide evidence, he doesn't do that. He blocks me. Okay? Blake has my phone number. I think I need to reveal some of the text messages that Blake sent me. I don't have them handy, but I think I'm going to put together a Blake show. And people who are interested in understanding more about what is going on with Blake Bednars will be able to see this information and draw their own conclusions about it. These are text messages he chose to send me. By the way, Blake, I've spent a lot of time in court. And one of the things, I guess this was in I can't remember if this was in Pennsylvania. No, this must have been in Virginia, waiting for the hearing with Nina. Because the judge, right, it was the first hearing with Nina. There was another harassment, order of protection that this judge was hearing, and it was this woman and some former romantic partner of hers. She was the petitioner, he was the respondent, and the judge was asking her questions. She said, well, you told him not to contact you, but then you went on a date with him. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, but now I don't want him to contact me. And the judge said, look, you can't do that. You can't say don't contact me and then contact the person and then not contact the person. I mean, you can do that, but you can't go into court and ask them to get involved. The reason I'm bringing this up is Chris Martinson told me to call Blake. He said, Jason, you need to give Blake the money from your evidence bounty. So I said, okay, Chris Martin, let me call Blake and arrange that. I called him at his office, and he got all weird on the phone and ultimately said, don't contact me again. And I said, okay. So I didn't. Then he texted me the other day. So if I'm harassing him, why is he texting me? You know, if I'm harassing him, why doesn't he do what I did in Florida? He could go into Texas, he could file a petition for an order of protection, make his case to a judge, give whatever evidence he thinks exists that I'm harassing him. And if a judge agrees, like Judge D'Amico in Florida's 15th Judicial District agreed, then an order of protection would be issued and I won't be allowed to contact him. But if he says don't contact me and then he texts me multiple times, you know, that's inviting me to respond. You know, I'm a little curious. He sent some texts that might be worthy of a response. I think we need to explore this further. What is going on over there? Oh, it's some Korean. Is that Korean writing on that flag? I don't know. Whoa, that person just smashed into the phone. I was looking at this bland.ai, never wait on hold again. Be in love with a robot. A lot of weird stuff going on. But yeah, that's the deal with Blake. He's sending me text messages. He said, delete that crap. It's fake. And I said, well, I didn't respond to him, but it's not fake. I got it from public records provided by the court in Lubbock, Texas. So is he telling me the court has posted fake information about him? And if it's fake, why didn't he stay on Twitter and explain to everyone how it's fake? See, when George made the false accusation that I've directed porno movies, and he spoke specifically about a video that I showed him, I posted that video for everybody to see. 3D bikini car wash. It's not porno. It's not even R-rated. There's no nudity, no lascivious behavior. It's two adult women washing a car on a summer day in a bikini. It's like a teen beach movie, like Gidget or something. You know, there's no, not even teens. These girls were in their 30s, but you know what I mean. It's like a PG movie. Anybody could watch that. And so that's what George does. And again, I share that with the public because people watch George and thinks he's telling them something factual. He's not. You know, whatever it is that he's talking about, and I haven't been paying attention to it. I know he's talking about Mitch. All I know about Mitch is that he's a guy who spoke to Candace Owens. I haven't evaluated his comments. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I realize Gary from Paramount Tactical got involved with Mitch. So see, there's another thing. Gary from Paramount Tactical, he also had Blake on his show. And he also had George Webb on his show. And he's also made up evidence and lied to try to smear and deplatform me. Gary is another one who's a liar and a defamatory, tortfeasor, as it were. Yeah, I think these guys just need to get sued, is what it is. That might be the next thing to happen. I don't know. I mean, these lawsuits haven't gone too well for me because the federal court seems to be...
Good experience.
Now, what's closed here? Wasn't this Starbucks? Did Starbucks close? See that? I leave for a little while and all kinds of things happen. Federal court, it seems to be manipulated. That's where George and his brother are able to file forged documents and nothing happens. And remember, well, no one will remember this because it was a private phone call with Dershowitz, but I threatened to sue him. I wish I had recorded that. I must have, but I don't know. I threatened to sue Dershowitz and he became like a demon. He was like, I relish a lawsuit from you. Like he knew he can't lose in court. Not because he has so much confidence in his abilities. Remember, we saw Dershowitz can be incompetent when he said his stupid crap about the governor having the constitutional right to inject you with a vaccine. Go look it up. And I did look it up, and he was proven wrong. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ultimately agreed with me. The thing they were talking about in the context of COVID-19 hadn't even been determined to be a vaccine by the medical definition of vaccine. So therefore, Jacobson v. Massachusetts did not control there. Dershowitz was wrong and I was right. So I don't think he said that because he's so confident in his lawyer abilities. It sounded to me like he knew court is rigged and it's rigged in his favor with regard to what I was onto. Same kind of thing as George and his brother. George's brother does so much outrageous stuff in court. I can't really imagine. This is new, the Canuck, True North, Canadian stuff. That's a bar, I guess. This used to be like Mustang Harry's or something. Now it's the Canuck, True North. But yeah, George and his brother do things in court that I just don't think any normal person would ever dream of doing, filing forged documents. George's brother now is filing document after document in this Florida 15th Judicial, or maybe it's the Appellate Court, the 4th Appellate Division of Florida. He's papering up the court. I don't understand, why these judges... When I was dealing with Nina's judge in Virginia, I think she's a stupid, incompetent, fat loser. That's my opinion, and the First Amendment allows me to tell you that. But in her courtroom, I recognize she has substantial ability to complicate my life and make unpleasant things happen. So there's a certain amount of decorum and respect that you need to show. You're not filing a million stupid, useless things just to paper up the docket. By the way, Nina's doing that too. She keeps saying like, oh, Jason needs to pay my legal bills and he's filing vexatious stuff. It's just not the way that a normal person spending their own money on lawyers and things would act, in my opinion. Nina, she just bought a house in April of 2025. She's got a young kid. Most people like that don't want to burn money on lawyers. She's got no problem with it. She's got all these nonprofit funds. Everybody's focused, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, everybody's focused on the abuse of nonprofit funds in Minneapolis by Somalis. It's happening everywhere. Who's paying George and his brother? Who pays Blake Bednars? How did he go from 5,000 to 50,000 Twitter followers in 3 months? It's not because he's doing good research. Somebody is promoting these accounts and these people, getting him on Gary's show. That's a network of losers. Who pays Gary? Gary, he's another one. When I exposed his nonprofit, people were like, Not that many people, because everybody I think realizes Gary is a loser. But what was he, how much money ran through that Archangel threat assessment or whatever, how counter threat, what was that thing called? Anyway, all these people, they steal your money through abuse of nonprofits. They lie to you. Very, very upsetting. Anyway, it's cold as hell out here. And that's basically all I wanted to say to everybody today. We'll see what happens with this storm. Try to stay warm, everybody. If you're in the blast zone, polar vortex, whatever it is we've got happening, please be careful. Thanks to everybody who sponsors the show. If you're not, please consider becoming a sponsor. Go to Subscribestar. This guy was taking a piss when I left this morning. See this guy? He should be corralled off the street and put him in a homeless shelter. And if he doesn't want to do that, put him in jail. Get him out of here. But, you know, my taxes go toward paying for that guy to be able to piss in the street. Please become a sponsor. Subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Oh no, the dog lost a shoe. Crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or follow on X at